Peace. Welcome to Mr. G's Hard Truth Show. I have a special guest from the West Coast today. If you don't mind, my brother, to introduce yourself, to tell people who you are.
Yes, my name is Big Keith Stone from Rolling 60s
Oh,
and off that West Coast at the LA South Central.
okay. Peace, Big Keith Stone. So now that I got you here on my show, I have some questions, man. At what point in time did you get into the lifestyle? What age were you, around the era did that happen to be in?
Well, it's the early 70s. Like I came to LA from Texas in 1971. I had a little peak show. I came to stay the next year in 72,
Okay.
about 72, 73. Right. So I started seeing the culture then. But I was kind of transitioning from coming out the sticks, even though we was kind of aggressive down there, but it was just small matter. And yeah, so I got introduced to it then, you know what I mean? But I didn't officially grab hold to it till like maybe I was probably 13, about 14 years old, 13, 14 years old,
Okay.
you know.
So 13, 14. Walk us through your mindset at that particular point in time.
Well, at that mindset, I mean, you wanted to prove in your wealth that you was down, you know what I'm saying, and then you want to kind of like fit in, you know what I mean, and I
Yeah.
not just fit in to be bullied around, but to just show that you got strength too, you know what I'm saying, and then
Hmm.
it was I, a fad is kind of like the wrong word to use, but it's like something you wanted to be a part of something that was growing, even though you didn't know particularly what it was, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
just come up watching them gangster movies and stuff, and it was like multifaceted for the reasons to join. You got camaraderie
Yeah.
with your friends that you grew up with, and you try to protect each other, and at the same time you want to be recognized, so you don't want to get pushed around by the older cats. You know what I'm saying? And
Got
and
you.
and you looking up at those same older cats when they try to pull your pockets down. So it was kind of like, I mean, it was just kind of like, I guess, a natural evolution, you know, from coming in, because you see them all apart. Because I mean, if you look back in time, it's always been there. It's just been qualified different. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, from mobsters to hoodsters to gangbangers. You know what I mean? It's
Got you.
always been there. I mean, even when I was growing up in Texas, they had gangs, but it wasn't
Yeah.
prevalent like it is in the cities. You know what I'm saying? But it kind of like had the same kind of, well, not even the same structure, but I mean,
Okay.
yeah,
So coming from Texas, now you're in South Central LA, and you're mingling and you're blending in, and you're getting used to those kind of street politics, right? And
yeah.
I guess you caught the rush. You know what I'm saying? Like any other teenager that got something going on, you're in the mix now. Did it start off with this particular set, or did you get introduced to different crews before you got introduced to your particular set?
Well, my particular set kind of evolved at the neighborhood. I always been in the same neighborhood, you know what I'm
Okay.
saying? But we had a couple of titles before we reached to be rolling sixties, you know what I mean? Because it was like West Side Avenue. But I was kind of a little young for that stage, even though I was like right there. That's just like, you being the little brother, you kind of like sneaking around, really, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's when like in the seventh grade and all that, but all that shit passed by me. But by the time I got to the eighth and ninth grade, particularly the ninth grade, is when
Hmm.
it all came to pass. But in those 2 years from seventh grade to ninth grade, I evolved from being, from where I started at to where what I became to be. You know what I mean? But those 2 years was the transition. You
Okay.
seeing people like Tookie, Hughes, the boss. You seeing a lot of big reputable people. You know what I mean? It's too many to name, but those some of the names are probably popular to everybody. You know what I mean? Like especially like Tookie, Jamel, Raymond Washington. You seeing them kind of cats. Barefoot
Yeah.
Pookie. You know, then you had Country, them from the Blood, you had Swig, them. You had a lot of different gangbangers. So, you know, once you, like in my neighborhood, we just stuck together and formed what we formed. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's kind of,
Okay. It
go
went
ahead.
out for a second and then it came back in. So you were saying in your neighborhood is when you formed what you formed, and that became the Rolling 60s, correct?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
What year was
Well,
that?
well, officially, we say the gang was official on Halloween of 1974.
Okay.
But, yeah, that's the official, you know, 74.
1974.
Yeah, Halloween. So that's when
Okay.
I was in the ninth grade. Yeah. But I
Okay.
didn't start it. I was just a part of the beginning. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure there was a collective that had to do with that. But like you said, you was part of the beginning phases of what Rolling 60s became. Now,
Yes, sir.
the question I have for you is at that point in time in the ninth grade, did you think it would be as relevant as it is today worldwide?
I mean, back then, we wasn't even thinking like that. You know what I'm saying? We were just trying to be the best we can be at that particular time. You know what I mean? Like we didn't
Mhm.
want to be no busters. We was staying down, so we was pushing the line kind of hard. You know what I'm saying? Because you
Yeah,
know my big homies at the time, Big Rick, Babyface, you know, just to name a couple, Smooth, Country, them. You know, our main goal was we gonna do it the most. We gonna push this line and stay down firm. You know what I mean? So we
yeah,
wasn't really looking. I can't speak for them. For myself, I wasn't looking beyond that. You know what I mean? Because the city was already
yeah,
on fire. You know what I mean? We was kind of like a new gang coming up, even though a lot of them had been through other gangs. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Yeah, before we formulated that, you know, it was a lot of hitters over there. You know, because you come like just think about the early '70s. You got movies like The Mag, Superfly. It wasn't a lot of black gangster movies. It was more pimps and players. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Even though you had gangsterism in it, so we was wearing tailor made clothes. You know, but then you was also had the James Cagney movies and all that kind of stuff too, though. So it
yeah.
was different, but yeah. But I would, to be honest, though, I had no idea it was going to become like it is now, though.
Interesting, interesting. As you started to evolve and mature, um, in the gang culture, right? What did that look like? Did you lose any time off of the streets behind, banging and repping what you rep?
Yeah, I lost a little time, but I was fortunate enough, not to do a whole lot of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been behind the wall 3 times, but all of them for short stints. I went to the feds the first time, then I came back out this a year or so in the county. Then I went to the state penitentiary. But
Okay.
yeah. So,
Now, going in and out of the penitentiary on those stints, did you learn certain things? Like, you know what I'm saying? When I mean learn certain things, I'm talking about internal reflections, you know, as a black man coming up in that culture, you know what I'm saying?
I guess you can say that. You know what I'm saying? But my focus has always been the same. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You learn how to survive no matter where you go. You know what I mean? But like I
Yeah.
say, my whole thing was not to get caught. You know what I'm saying? But if I did, I'm gonna stay 10 toes down. So in there, it was kind of like by me not having no life sentences like my homeboys, it was kind of like a vacation to me because I know I had a date to come home. And I'm gonna rep it the fullest while I'm in there. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of like a different situation. But I went through the crip modules, the whole shit. Even before the crip modules was out, I stayed on the main line. You know what I mean? No matter
Okay.
like when I was in the feds, I was one of the youngest dudes on the main line. I was 19 on the main line. But I
Man.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
the focus we had was just stay down and shitty no matter what. You know what I mean? Whether you
And
got
and
30
pushing the
days,
line.
30 years. Yeah, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
All
So I
right.
mean, but when you are behind that wall, you do have a lot of time to reflect. Because you know what I mean. I just really grabbed the question that you asked, and it kind of kept me from. Well, I was. It kept me from getting them lives doing stupid shit. I was still active and still doing my shit, but I did it
Yeah.
with a little more sense. It just wasn't like a crash dump. You know, I'm thinking before I make a move. You know what I mean? Then I knew when I was in the feds, a dude taught me a lot of patience. You know what I mean? How to, I started playing chess, how to make your moves. You know what I mean? How to
Mhm.
disguise your moves, how to hide your moves, not from fear, but just from strategies. You know what I'm saying? How
Yeah.
to strategize better. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You
So
know.
at what? Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, bro.
No, I'm just saying, because coming from where I come from, I mean, if the '60s we was a whole different animal. It was a lot of LA is full of some real cats, right? So,
Yeah.
like in the beginning, you know what I'm saying, before the Uzis, the Mac 10s, and all that came out, you had 38s. Somebody at most shot sawed-off shotguns was a prevalent thing, 22s and stuff like that. So you're only ducking 8, 9 bullets, but you're doing a lot of fighting and stabbing and stuff like that, right? You know what I mean?
Mm.
And a couple gunplay, but it was a lot of gunplay because we always had guns and we always used them, right? But it was kind of like a different situation. You know what I mean? Then it wasn't a whole lot of people, and when I was first coming up, it wasn't a whole lot of cars. So you're doing a lot of walking and public transit. You know what I mean? So you had to really stay down, and you flagged a lot in the beginning. But
Yeah.
that was. But like as time went on, it got more dangerous. You know what I'm saying? And it just evolved, bro. You know what I mean?
I get it. I get it. So when that happened and that took place, and like you said, so now you're at 100. You're in your teens. You're in your early adult years. At what time did?
I need to get cool out. I need to calm down. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, I didn't calm down to man until I got in my late 20s, early 30s. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, you really couldn't calm down in LA at that time. You know what I mean? Because it was like, when the crack gang came, that's just a whole nother uh, reason to step on the gas. You know what I'm saying? Because it just made a lot of other stuff more prevalent. You know what I mean? With the crack gang, because now you got more money, more guns, and you're going to more places. So you're gonna stay down. So it wasn't no time to slow down. You know what I mean? Because if
Mm,
you're doing bad, you're gonna go take it from the next man. You know what I'm saying? Some people
yeah.
like, it's just who you were. You know what I'm saying? But coming over there from the land of scallops, you know what I'm saying? From Sixes, we used to say that on the RSC Rolling 60 trip, the S stood for scallops. Because we gonna get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's a quote we say, remember the quote what the Christians wrote about honesty and fair play. You can't live sweet not knowing how to cheat because the game ain't played that way. So in order to succeed, you cut out your heart for a better start because there's an organ you really don't need. So we was
Yeah.
reading that kind of shit out of I think David Whitman or something like that wrote that in a
Okay.
book in the book of life. So we kind of like live by that. You know what I mean? And it's
Got
just
you.
like man, like I say everybody, the whole city was trying to do the most. So you have to be up on your A game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, as you start seeing it spread, what was the feeling like? As you get into your later years and you see the notoriety, and now, it's something that's looked at as not just part of gang culture, but it became, hip hop culture. It became entertainment. You know what I'm saying? Like it became so much more than what y'all was doing back then. You feel me?
Yes, yes. Oh, yeah. Cause like soon as the mobile phones came with the camera shit, cause it was a transition. Cause when we was coming up, we stayed away from the media, because we didn't want to be known. So we was like under the radar. We let the
Yeah.
street speak for who we were, or our neighborhood, or whoever you want to cross. You
Mm-hmm.
stand down. So we wasn't advertising or promoting. Yeah, I mean, we did our thing. We promoted with inside the gang culture, but it was kind of like it wasn't a secret society, but it was like a lot of secret shit going on as far as like the rules and regulations and policies, right?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? But like, like my little homies, I guess you could say about two, three generations down the road, they became, the internet trips. Well, I not that's kind of like the wrong way to say it, but they the ones they got more. How well, I don't even know how to put it, but I mean,
I
you
get
know
what
what
you
I mean?
say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with
it
all the
kind of sounded
videos and
wild,
shit
but yeah,
like
I get
that,
it.
they
Yeah,
was advertising it like you advertise a car commercial. You know what I'm saying?
got you.
Well, we was advertising in the streets, but I don't take that from them because they took it further than what we did. See, I like to say stuff. I like to look at it like this here. See, we was kind of like the tip of the spear. So we had trails we walked down. So we built those trails in the streets into the highways and freeways, right? So by the
Yeah.
time they come on, they on the freeway, they doing 100 miles an hour. You know what
All right, we back in effect. I got
I'm
Big Keith Stone here from the Rolling 60s. As you were saying, Keith, because we got cut off.
Well, I think I was saying about the point, like when we started, it was like trails that we turned into roads and then roads into the freeways. So with the people that came behind us, their path was clear. And it was up to them to take it a little bit further. And like, when we talk about how things change, they didn't take it to a different level. You know what I mean? Because it's really, like you say, worldwide now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know
So the
the
way, yeah,
Go ahead.
the way that it hit these different states, that was something new. That didn't come from your generation.
Yeah, it came from our generation, but it spawned because people started going out of state. But when the dope gang came around and you going out of town to make more money, you took your where you was from with you, and so that's how
Okay,
a lot of sets started out of town with all the
got you.
gangs in LA. All the gangs doing the same thing because you're taking a crew down there to make your money, and you're gonna take somebody that you feel comfortable with. And you're gonna take your hitters or whatever team that you take down there with you. That's what you're gonna do.
Yeah,
You know.
that's a fact. That's a fact. You know, where did that Rich Rolling saying come from?
You know what? That's been I put it like this here. The saying where it came from, I really can't say who created that.
Yeah.
But the way for us, the way it got rich got famous was through my homeboy, rest in peace, Joe Rat. He had an El Camino. He was one of the bigger dope dealers in the hood, and he had an
Okay.
El Camino, right? And he had Rich Rolling on the back. You know what I mean? And then like my other little homie, rest in peace, used to work for him, used to drive that El Camino all over the city. So that's what
Okay.
made it famous in the city and probably, especially from '60s. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Before the actual saying, because in that same time period, a lot of people saying, because I had a minor bird named Rich Rolling Richie. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Yeah.
So but I didn't coin that phrase, but I don't know who really coined it, but I know it got prevalent when he put it on the back of the Elco. Because we was saying it, but he
Gotcha.
made the slogan worldwide. You know what I mean? Because
Gotcha.
because the crack game changed a whole lot of stuff. Because it got more serious. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And then we in our 20s, so we full of, like to say, full of young, dumb, full of calm. Lord knows we want a gun. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so you know how that go. You know.
Yeah. All right. Now that you're more older, wiser, you've been around, you've been through some things and you overcome some things. What message would you have for the youth coming up?
I mean, just be yourself, live for your dreams. You know what I'm saying? And learn the power of the word no. Because
Mm,
no can get you out a whole lot. When you trying to explain why you don't want to do something, or rationale why you don't want to do something, or even explain why you want to do something, it still gives too much room for people to get in there and alter your train of thought or your program. But if you just say no, that nips it in the bud. And no is one of the hardest words. We say it all the time, but when you really, really need to say it, sometimes it's hard as hell to say because you want to fit in. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And then it's like, it'll save you a lot. But if you do choose whatever life you choose, just do it to the fullest, man. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? That's all I could say. You know what I mean? But these days and times now, all our tribes need to come together because we're under attack politically,
mm,
financially. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
we got to come together as a people, man. 'Cause
I,
there's a whole lot of dumb shit going on right now.
I, I
I just,
agree.
yeah, I just hope my people get wiser, man. You know what I mean? Don't be falling for the banana in the bell pipe, in the tailpipe,
Yeah,
like Eddie say. You know what I mean?
I
Yeah,
get it, man. We do. We need to wake up. We need to get together. We need to get a different mindset. You know,
absolutely.
um, on how we're going to change our conditions as a people, as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? Absolutely.
That's
You
very
know,
important. I would really like to pull you up on the show another time to talk about that. Um, so I'm hoping you with it.
yeah, I'm with it,
And,
man.
all
I'll
right,
come back.
and we'll take it from there. On
Yes,
that note,
sir.
man, continue to be kind, travel in harmony. I'm out. Peace.
All right, peace, brother. I'm out.
Peace.
Yes.
This is an Infinite Energy production. Yo, what's up, lads? What up, son? Yo, man, this shit done switched up, man. They let a lot of frauds and lames up in here, man. Time to bring this back. I see the envy up in their eyes. Characters talking them lies. Mannequins flossing that drip. Even kids talking they shit. Got gangsters snitching on tracks. In my book, they still call rats. You say the block you deal and the plug you deal with shootouts up in that trap. It's a fact caught in the trap. I'm a warrior built to adapt. I had jewels way before rap. I had crews way before the 5 or 6. Use 9 for mine, so don't get out of line. Get put in lines, I call that at a time. I'm about mine, came to handle biz. Ain't no stopping that I came to school. These lames is a crucial game. So I'm bringing pain, setting trends with some veterans. I'm a B-boy who respect the art. This is hip-hop, no gimmicks here. Even in careers if I have to. I'm an MC, this is natural. Don't make me body snatching, shorty grab. Put you on the plate for that actual.
Sharp.